What happens when the man you're mocking turns out to own the place? Trevor Stokes adjusted the wire-rimmed glasses on his face and looked at himself in the mirror one last time. The dark navy hoodie and faded jeans were a far cry from the tailored suits he usually wore at board meetings, but that was the point. He needed to blend in. The fake beard added just enough scruff to his clean-shaven face, and the baseball cap pulled low helped hide his features. No one would recognize him not here. His company had grown fast after he inherited it 5 years ago. His father built it from scratch 14 fast casual grocery-style stores across the state, places where people could grab fresh produce, warm meals, or a quick snack. Trevor had expanded it, opened more locations, built a corporate team, but with growth came distance. He hadn't been inside one of his stores in over a year, and lately things felt off. Emails from the district manager sounded too polished. Numbers looked fine, but customer complaints had started trickling in. Rude staff, long wait times, place doesn't feel the same. One message from a longtime customer just said, "You forgot who you are." That one stuck with him. So here he was, going back to store number 9, the one in Pinefield. A mid-sized town, mostly quiet. He had never met the employees there, and with turnover, most had never seen him in person. That was the point. The disguise helped, but so did the fact that the CEO was never expected to walk the aisles. He entered through the front, the automatic doors sliding open with a hiss. The air smelled of rotisserie chicken and floor cleaner. The place looked clean, shelves stocked. So far, so good. He grabbed a handbasket and walked slowly down the aisles like any other shopper. A young woman in an apron was restocking soup cans. She smiled as he passed. "Morning," she said. "Morning," Trevor replied, keeping his voice low. He noticed her name tag Celia. He made a mental note. Friendly, attentive. One of the good ones, maybe. He wandered toward the prepared food section. A deli counter, salad bar, and a couple of hot trays sat under heat lamps. Most of the food looked fresh, but the macaroni looked dry. An older woman scooped herself a portion and frowned. "Excuse me," she said to a passing employee in a black polo. The man didn't stop. "Not my section," he grunted. Trevor blinked. That was odd. He followed the employee with his eyes, tall, late 30s, name tag said Devin. Devin walked straight to the front and leaned on the customer service podium, pulling out his phone. Trevor noted it, but kept moving. He didn't want to jump to conclusions too fast. He headed toward the checkout lanes. There were 3 open. A short line had formed at lane 2, where a teenage boy was scanning items quickly, his fingers flying over the touchscreen. He looked focused. Good energy. Lane 3 was slower. A young woman with blonde hair tied in a tight ponytail was chewing gum loudly, chatting with the bagger while barely glancing at the customers. Trevor got in her line. He didn't have much, some fruit, a small hot meal, and a bottle of water. As he waited, he noticed the man ahead of him. Late 20s, maybe 30. Nervous. He kept checking his wallet, counting bills, stepping forward, then back. His hands trembled slightly as he placed his items on the belt, just a sandwich, a drink, and a small pack of cookies. The cashier looked at him, rolled her eyes, and said loudly, "You good, or are we playing math games today?" The man flushed red. I think I have enough," she laughed and looked at the bagger. "He thinks he has enough. I'm not a calculator, dude." Trevor's jaw clenched. The man tried to speak again, but she cut him off. "Look, if you can't pay, just say so. We're not running a charity." He handed her the cash silently, and she counted it with exaggerated slowness. "Wow, exactly $21. Impressive." She handed him the receipt without looking at him. He left quickly, head down. Trevor stepped forward, setting his items on the belt. The cashier smirked at the bagger. "Another one," she said under her breath. "What is it, sad man Wednesday?" Trevor met her eyes. "You always talk to customers like that." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" "I didn't say anything to you." He didn't respond. She scanned his things with a sigh, tapped the screen lazily, and shoved the items into a bag. "That'll be $12.70, he paid in cash. As she handed him the change, she said, "You look like you're about to cry too." Must be something in the air. Trevor nodded slowly. Thanks. He took the bag and walked toward the exit, heart pounding. Outside, he spotted the nervous man sitting on the curb, sandwich untouched in his lap. Trevor walked over. Hey, he said, kneeling beside him. You okay? The man looked up, startled. Yeah, just rough day. Trevor sat beside him. She shouldn't have talked to you like that. The man smiled weakly. It's fine, I'm used to it. You shouldn't be. He stood and walked back to his car. Once inside, he pulled out his phone and called his executive assistant. Get me the district manager. Now, the voice on the other end was surprised. Trevor, what now? He said. We've got a problem in Pinefield. He stared at the store from the parking lot, the sunlight catching in his windshield. This wasn't going to be a quick fix, but it was going to get fixed. Trevor arrived the next morning before the sun had fully risen, parking in the far corner of the lot where the light poles didn't reach. The air was still, just the faint hum of refrigeration units kicking on behind the building. He'd asked his executive assistant to delay any internal investigations or corporate responses until he could spend a few days embedded inside the store. No announcements, no warnings. He wanted to see it for himself fully, without interference. He entered through the back this time, the employee entrance tucked beside the loading dock. A small handwritten sign on the door said, "Use elbow to buzz button sticks." He obliged. The door clicked, and he stepped into a narrow hallway lined with beige metal lockers and a bulletin board cluttered with faded flyers and outdated shift schedules. A young man with a lanyard around his neck looked up from behind a folding table where time cards were stacked. You the new guy? He asked, voice rough from sleep. Yeah, Trevor answered, using the name on his fake ID badge. Name's Drew, temporary hire. They said I'd start on dry goods. The man nodded without enthusiasm. I'm Aaron. I guess you're with me today. He handed him a beat-up clipboard with a list of restock items, then turned and started walking. Trevor fell in step beside him. What's the layout like? I haven't worked one of these before. Aaron scratched at his neck absently. You'll figure it out. Follow the aisle numbers. Just don't leave carts in the middle. Too long. Devin flips out. They passed through swinging doors into the warehouse section. Pallets were half unwrapped, some leaning precariously against one another. Several empty carts were scattered near the loading dock, and a single delivery truck idled with its lights on outside. No one was unloading it. Do we have a receiving guy? Trevor asked. Aaron shrugged. Should be. Maybe he called out. Doesn't matter. Devin says we're not allowed overtime, so half the stuff just waits. They reached the stock floor. The store looked similar to the day before, but now with a layer of fatigue sitting over everything. Fluorescent lights buzzed slightly overhead, and a few customers wandered the aisles in silence, pushing carts with slow, mechanical movements. Aaron pointed to a cart loaded with boxes of canned vegetables. Start with those. If you finish before break, grab the next list. He wandered off without further instructions. Trevor began shelving the cans, watching as the store gradually filled. A woman wearing a forest green apron passed by carrying a crate of bananas. She struggled to balance it while opening the produce cooler with her shoulder. You need a hand? Trevor asked. She exhaled. I'm good, these crates just suck. He moved closer anyway, lifting the crate from her arms. No shame in tag teaming it, she chuckled under her breath. Thanks. You knew? Yeah, Drew, Marion. She wiped her forehead with the sleeve of her shirt. You'll learn quick, just watch your back with Devin. Trevor set the crate down inside the cooler. He the guy in charge, she made a face. Technically. Depends on what mood he's in. Before he could ask more, she was gone. By mid-morning, the store felt stretched. Customers waited near the hot food station with no one attending it. The salad bar had 2 empty trays. The one employee running the deli counter was visibly sweating while trying to slice meat and answer questions at the same time. Trevor noticed a woman tapping her foot near the rotisserie display, clearly irritated. A voice barked from the side hallway. If you're not scheduled for that station, don't touch it. Devon stood near the employee restroom, arms crossed. He was yelling toward a girl who had just stepped behind the hot food counter to refill one of the trays. She began. Nope, not your section. Back to produce. She looked down and stepped away. Trevor walked over casually. You ever jump in when things get backed up? Devon turned slowly. Who are you? New hire, Drew, just trying to help. Devon narrowed his eyes. We don't need help. We need people to stay in their lanes. Trevor nodded once. Understood. He walked back toward the dry goods section, but his chest felt tight. The girl had only been trying to help. The customers were waiting. None of it made sense unless the goal was control, not efficiency. Later in the break room, Trevor sat at a plastic table nursing a bottle of water. The room had a single microwave, a vending machine with 4 out-of-order buttons, and a wheezing mini-fridge that smelled faintly of spoiled milk. Celia entered, the girl he'd seen stocking soup cans the day before. She looked surprised to see him. You actually took a break, she said, grabbing a yogurt from the fridge and sitting across from him. They let us, she laughed. Technically, depends who you ask, he glanced around. This place always run like this, she peeled back the foil lid. Used to be better. Last year we had a different manager, Tasha. She listened, pitched in when we were short, ran things tight. Then Devon came in and everything's about quotas and micromanaging now. People quit. Hours got cut, and the ones of us left are just patching holes. Trevor nodded slowly. Why'd you stay? She stirred the yogurt slowly. Rent's not optional, and I actually care about the customers. Some of them have been coming here since I was in high school. She looked up suddenly. You should be careful, though. Devon's got a thing about new people asking questions. Thinks everyone's trying to make him look bad. I'm just trying to figure out where stuff goes. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's what we all said at first. As the afternoon wore on, Trevor shadowed the rest of the store. A pattern emerged. Most employees were overworked, doing multiple roles. The few who seemed disengaged, like the cashier from the day before, were the ones Devon never corrected. In fact, he seemed to favor them. He barked orders at the earnest ones and ignored the rude or lazy ones entirely. Near closing, Trevor found himself restocking the dairy case. A woman in her 60s searched for a particular yogurt brand, but the shelf was out. He apologized and checked the back. There was none. When he returned to tell her, she smiled kindly. No worries, sweetheart. At least you tried. Her response startled him. The bar had been set so low that doing the bare minimum earned genuine thanks. He helped her to her car with her bags, then returned to clock out. The hallway near the time cards was empty except for Devon, who leaned against the wall sipping a soda. You lasted longer than I expected, he said. Was I supposed to quit? Devon snorted. Most of the temps do, not built for pressure. Trevor met his gaze. Maybe it's not the pressure that's the problem. Devon's jaw shifted. You've got a smart mouth for a stock boy. Trevor didn't respond. He just punched his time card and left. In his car, he sat in silence. The pieces were falling into place. A toxic manager, good employees hanging on by threads, customers frustrated but loyal. The store wasn't failing because of bad workers, it was failing because the wrong people were in charge of the right ones. He looked back at the glowing sign above the store. He had seen enough. Tomorrow, he wasn't coming back undercover. Tomorrow, he was coming back as himself. The next morning, Trevor entered the Pinefield store through the front doors again, no hoodie, no beard, no disguise. He wore a fitted gray blazer over a dark shirt, clean cut and unmistakably himself. A few heads turned as he walked past the produce section, but no one recognized him yet. That would change soon. He didn't go to the office. Instead, he walked directly to the front podium where Devon stood, half watching the registers while sipping from a large paper cup. A cashier asked him a question about a voided transaction, but he waved her off without looking. Trevor stopped a few feet away. Devon Lowry. Devon turned, confused by the tone. His eyes flicked over Trevor's clothes, then his face. Recognition didn't register immediately. Yeah, Trevor's voice was calm but firm. Trevor Stokes. Devin blinked. I'm sorry, I own this company. And I spent the last 2 days working here. Devin's mouth opened slightly. Wait, what? His eyes scanned Trevor's face again. You're joking. Trevor pulled out his wallet and flipped it open, showing his actual ID, then he gestured toward the store. Let's talk in the back. Devin hesitated. Now? Yes, now. The walk to the back office was silent. Employees glanced up as they passed, sensing something unusual. Marion paused mid-scan at the self-checkout station. Celia, who was shelving greeting cards near the pharmacy, froze when she saw them heading to the back. Inside the cramped office, Trevor shut the door behind them. The room was cluttered: 2 monitors, a stack of vendor invoices, and a half-eaten sandwich sweating in cling wrap beside the keyboard. Trevor stayed standing. Sit down, Devin did slowly, as though still trying to understand what was happening. You didn't recognize me when I came in, and that's fine. I didn't want you to, but what I saw over the past 48 hours was unacceptable. Devin leaned forward. If there's been a misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding. I watched you ignore customers, snap at staff, and shut down people who tried to help. I stood 10 feet from you while you mocked a man who could barely afford a sandwich. You knew he was struggling, and you made it worse. Then you let your cashier humiliate him while you stared at your phone. Devin's face darkened. She's been a problem. I was already planning to talk to her. Trevor cut him off. You didn't say a word to her. You laughed. And that wasn't the only thing. Devin shifted in his chair. You have to understand, this store's been under pressure. We've been short-staffed for months. Corporate cut our budget. No, Trevor said flatly. You cut hours to stay under your overtime cap. You left critical stations unmanned, then punished employees who tried to step in. I watched you shut down initiative and reward apathy. You've created a culture where the good people are surviving in spite of you, not because of you. Devin's voice rose slightly. I've kept this store from falling apart. You think you can walk in here for 2 days and understand what it takes to run this place? Trevor's stare didn't waver. I built this company on service. My father stocked shelves until his knees gave out. He knew every employee by name. This store used to reflect that. Now it reflects you. Devin opened his mouth again, but Trevor raised a hand. I'm not interested in excuses. As of this morning, you're suspended. HR will follow up with next steps. Devin scoffed, standing. You're making a mistake. Trevor turned to the door. I already did. I stayed away too long. He opened the door and stepped out. A few employees were gathered near the break room, watching. Devin remained behind, staring at the floor. Trevor walked back into the main area of the store. The energy had shifted. Word had traveled fast. Celia stood near the floral section, arms crossed, unsure what to say. Marion was no longer at self-checkout. She stood near the coffee aisle with Aaron, both looking toward him. He gestured for them to meet him near the front. As they gathered, Trevor stepped onto the low platform behind the customer service counter. It wasn't elevated by much, but it gave him just enough height to be heard. I need everyone's attention for a moment. The chatter quieted. A few customers turned to look, sensing something different. I'm Trevor Stokes. I run Stokes Market Group. Some of you might have seen me on posters or newsletters. Most of you probably haven't. That's on me. He scanned their faces, some surprised, some cautious. I've been at this store for the last 2 days under the name Drew. I stocked shelves, cleaned coolers, and tried to understand why this location felt disconnected from the rest of our company. What I saw confirmed what some of you already knew. He looked toward Marion. Some of you have been holding this place together with too little help and too little support. Then to Celia. Some of you treat people with kindness even when no one's watching. He paused, then continued. Effective today, Devin is no longer managing this store. We'll be installing a temporary supervisor while we begin the search for permanent leadership. Until then, I'll be here. Not in a suit, not behind a desk. I'll be working alongside you. A few people looked stunned. Aaron raised his eyebrows. Marion stared at the floor, then back at Trevor. There are going to be changes, not flashy ones. Practical ones. We'll adjust schedules to make sure we're staffed where we need to be. We'll reopen the closed registers, and we'll start listening again." A man from produce raised a hand hesitantly. "What about inventory deliveries?" "We've had pallets sitting out back for days." Trevor nodded. "That's already being addressed. Logistics is sending a second shift team tonight." Another employee, a woman from bakery, spoke next. "Will we get overtime back? Or at least enough hours to cover the work?" "I can't undo everything overnight," Trevor said. "But we're lifting the overtime freeze immediately. If this store needs hours, it gets them." There was a long silence. Then someone clapped. It came from the back, an older woman near the salad bar. A few more joined in. It wasn't loud, but it was earnest. Trevor stepped down. "Back to business. Let's get this place back on track." He walked to the side, motioning for Marion to follow. They stepped into the hallway behind the bakery. "You've been here a while," he said. "Almost 6 years. You ever think about managing?" She blinked. "What? We'll need an interim lead. Someone who knows the store, has the team's respect, and can get organized fast." She hesitated. "I don't have a degree. Neither did my father." She folded her arms. "What if I mess up?" "You already haven't. You stayed." Marion looked away for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll try." Trevor tapped her shoulder. "You won't be alone." They returned to the floor together. Celia was already walking toward a customer who looked lost near the pet food aisle. Aaron was unlocking the second register. The quiet hum of the store returned, but it felt different now, lighter, more awake. Trevor stepped behind the hot food counter and rolled up his sleeves. He wasn't just visiting this time. He was staying until they got it right. Saturday morning came with overcast skies and a chill in the air, but inside the Pinefield store, the temperature ran higher. The closing shift the night before had lasted until nearly midnight. Trevor had stayed with them, unloading pallets, helping reset the dry goods aisle, and reorganizing the walk-in cooler that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. There hadn't been time for speeches or promises, just work that needed doing. At 7:15 a.m., the store was already humming. Marion stood near the front with a clipboard, checking off open stations. Her eyes moved quickly, calculating gaps and assigning coverage. She wasn't giving orders, she was asking, listening, coordinating. Trevor was in the back room, pulling a cart of breakfast items toward the hot case. The new shift lead from corporate, a quiet man named Lewis, was beside him, reviewing the food safety log. They said little, but their movements were synchronized, Trevor lifting trays, Lewis adjusting temperatures. As they entered the main floor, a line was already forming near the bakery. The woman who had taken over Register 2, Tasha, moved with confidence. She'd been transferred from another location temporarily, and already she had customers smiling as she scanned items with practiced ease. Near the hot food station, Trevor caught sight of the same nervous man from 3 days ago. He wore the same frayed jacket, and his eyes flicked between the shelves with uncertainty. This time, he wasn't alone. A boy stood beside him, maybe 7 or 8, holding an empty lunchbox. Trevor walked over slowly, not wanting to startle them. "Morning," he said, keeping his tone easy. The man looked up, surprised. "You're the guy from before." Trevor nodded. "Name's Trevor. You doing all right?" The man hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Just trying to stretch things this week." Trevor bent down slightly. "You like grilled chicken?" The boy gave a small nod. Trevor stood back up and gestured toward the hot case. "Come with me." They followed quietly. Behind the counter, Trevor grabbed a tray and filled it with 2 meal boxes, chicken, rice, and steamed vegetables. He added 2 bottles of water, then turned to the man. "No charge." The man's face tightened. "I don't want pity." Trevor handed him the tray. "This isn't pity. This is a store doing what it's supposed to do, feed people right." He paused, then added, "And if you ever need work, we've got hours open. Talk to Marion." The man glanced toward the front, where Marion was helping a customer find a birthday candle. "I don't have much experience," he said quietly. "Neither did I when I started," Trevor replied. "Doesn't matter." They left with the food, and Trevor returned to the back to wash his hands. As he dried them, Celia entered holding a clipboard with a stack of shift requests. "Morning," she said. "The schedule's a mess. We've got 3 people who want to pick up shifts, 2 who need to cut back, and 1 who's not showing up." Trevor took the sheet and scanned it. "You think we can split the longer shifts instead of running people ragged?" She nodded. "If we can get 2 part-timers to cover evenings, yeah, let's do it." She hesitated, then added, "Also, someone left a note on the break room table for you, folded in half." Trevor followed her to the back, where the break room door was propped open with a mop bucket. He picked up the folded paper from the table and opened it. Written in neat, slanted handwriting was a short message: "Thanks for giving a damn, thought we were invisible." No name. No signature. He folded it back up and placed it inside his jacket pocket. By midday, the pressure returned. The lunch rush hit hard. A delivery truck was delayed. The card reader at register 3 froze and the receipt paper ran out twice within an hour. But this time, no one panicked. Lewis jumped on the register while Aaron ran back up. Marion moved between the departments like she'd been doing it for years, plugging holes, giving short instructions, checking temperatures, and handing off hand sanitizer to the team working food stations. Trevor stayed on the floor, helping where needed. He didn't hover, he hauled boxes, wiped down counters, restocked utensils. He noticed something unexpected. Customers were lingering, not because of delays, but because the atmosphere had shifted. People were asking questions again. Some even complimented the displays. Near the end of the day, Trevor stepped outside to catch some air. The cloudy sky had broken open slightly, letting golden light pour through in patches. He sat on the curb near the cart return, watching people come and go. A voice interrupted him. "You're not what I expected." He turned. Tasha stood a few feet away, holding a half-empty cup of iced tea. "What you expect?" he asked. "Someone who'd show up, yell a little, then disappear." Trevor smiled faintly. "I almost did." She sat beside him. "You know, the cashier who insulted that guy, she quit this morning." "Left a voicemail, said she didn't like being micromanaged." He nodded. "I didn't want to fire her just for being rude, but I wasn't going to protect her either." "You didn't have to," Tasha said. She was never going to last in a place that expects decency. They sat in silence for a minute, watching a young couple load groceries into their trunk. Tasha spoke again. "You think this holds, the changes?" Trevor looked back at the store. "It will if we stay honest." "And if we listen?" She nodded slowly. Later that evening, Trevor held a short meeting in the break room. No fanfare, no announcements. Just the team gathered around folding chairs and milk crates, sipping coffee and water. "I'm heading back to corporate Monday," he said. "But this store isn't going back to the way it was. Marion is acting manager for now. Lewis stays until we hire permanently, and I want weekly updates sent straight to me, not filtered, not polished." He looked around the room. "This company has 17 stores. This one reminded me why we built them in the first place. Not just to sell food, but to treat people like people." No one clapped. No one needed to. The silence in the room was filled with something better: understanding. That night, Trevor locked up with Marion. They walked the aisles one last time together, checking displays, tightening caps, straightening bins. "You're going to do fine," he said. She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm not afraid of the work. Just afraid of letting it slide back." "Then don't let it." She locked the final door and they stepped outside. Trevor looked up at the sign above the entrance. The lights buzzed quietly, steady and familiar. He turned to her. "If anything ever starts to feel wrong again, even if it's months from now, I want you to call me." "I will." He extended a hand and she shook it. Then he walked to his car, started the engine, and pulled out of the lot. Behind him, the Pinefield store stood steady, not fixed, not perfect, but better, and this time it would stay that way.